He was the man who humbled the legions of Rome. A military genius who, with a much smaller army, pulled off a victory so impossible it would be studied for centuries. His name was Surena, and what was his reward? His own king had him executed. This is the story of why the Parthian Empire killed the very man who saved it. Before we continue, please note that this video are AI generated and may not be historically precise. The content is intended as an entertainment and educational exploration, not as a definitive historical record. So, in the middle of the 1st century BCE, the Roman Republic was the dominant power in the Mediterranean, but its highest levels of government were a viper's nest of ambition. An informal, uneasy alliance known as the First Triumvirate held much of the political power, shared between 3 men: Julius Caesar, Pompey the Great, and Marcus Licinius Crassus. Caesar had his conquest of Gaul. Pompey had great victories in the east, but Crassus, arguably the richest man in Rome, was missing the one thing a man like him craved more than gold: military glory. His eyes turned to the great rival power on the map, the Parthian Empire. To the Romans, Parthia was a mysterious eastern kingdom, a land of fabulous wealth and exotic warriors. To Crassus, it was a prize waiting to be taken, a chance to put his name up there with Alexander the Great. Without the official consent of the Senate, Crassus was driven by a personal hunger for fame and fortune. He gathered a massive invasion force of 7 legions and auxiliary troops, somewhere between 35,000 and 43,000 soldiers, and marched east. When Parthian emissaries met him, they got straight to the point. Was this war declared by the state of Rome, or was it his own private adventure? Crassus, arrogant and dismissive, boasted he would give his answer in their capital. In response, one envoy held out his palm and gave a chilling reply, famously paraphrased as, "Hair will grow here before you ever see Seleucia." A line had been drawn. The Roman war machine was now bearing down on Parthia. For the Parthians, this wasn't just a battle for territory, it was a fight for survival. The man on the Parthian throne was King Orodes II. He'd only recently secured his crown after a bloody civil war against his own brother, a fight where he was crucially supported by the powerful Suren clan. See, the Parthian Empire wasn't a centralized state like Rome. It was more of a feudal system, where the King of Kings ruled with the support of great noble houses who commanded their own lands, wealth, and private armies. And no house was greater than the House of Suren. Their leader was a young general known to history by his family name, Surena. Said to be not yet 30 years old, he was the very picture of Parthian aristocracy. The historian Plutarch described him as a man of incredible height and beauty, second only to the king in riches and reputation. Plutarch, perhaps with some exaggeration, wrote that when Surena traveled, his personal baggage needed 1,000 camels. His harem filled 200 carriages, and he was escorted by a personal guard of 1,000 armored heavy cavalry, known as cataphracts. His family even held the hereditary honor of placing the crown on the king's head at a coronation. He was practically a king himself. And it was this man, Surena, who had been essential in putting Orodes on the throne. Now, with Crassus's legions pouring into Mesopotamia, Orodes made a strategic decision. He would take the main Parthian army to invade the nearby kingdom of Armenia, cutting off a potential Roman ally. To face the massive invasion force led by Crassus, he sent his most brilliant and maybe most dangerous general, Surena. With him was just a fraction of the Parthian military, a cavalry force of his own. In the spring of 53 BCE, near the ancient town of Carrhae, the two armies finally met. Crassus commanded more than 35,000 men, mostly the heavy infantry that formed the backbone of Rome's power. Surena had about 10,000 horse archers and 1,000 heavy cataphracts. On paper, it was a total mismatch. But Surena wasn't going to fight like a Rahman. He was going to make the Romans fight like Parthians. As the legions advanced in a massive, slow-moving square to protect their flanks, the battle began not with a clash of steel, but with a terrifying, deafening noise. Surena had his men beat hollow kettle drums, a sound that unsettled the Romans before a single arrow was fired. Then, the storm broke. 9,000 Parthian horse archers swarmed the Roman square. They were masters of the devastating Parthian shot, galloping toward the enemy while firing a volley of arrows, then feigning a retreat, only to twist in their saddles and fire even more shots as they rode away. The Roman shields could block some arrows, but the barrage was simply endless. This was Surena's first stroke of genius. He had organized a large supply train of camels loaded with spare arrows, allowing his archers to fire, fall back, resupply, and return, creating a perpetual storm of death. The Romans were trapped in the open desert, getting picked apart under the blistering sun. Trying to break the deadlock, Crassus sent his son, Publius, with his elite cavalry to charge the horse archers. It was exactly what Surena wanted. The archers feigned a panicked retreat, luring Publius and his men far from the main Roman army. Once they were isolated, the trap was sprung. Out of the dust came Surena's trump card, 1,000 cataphracts. These were shock troops, with both horse and rider encased in heavy iron or bronze-scale armor. They crashed into Publius's exhausted and surrounded force, completely annihilating them. The horse archers then returned to the main Roman army, who watched in horror as the head of Publius was paraded on a spear. Their morale was shattered. As the sun began to set, the cataphracts charged the broken and exhausted legions, punching through their lines and turning the battle into a slaughter. The defeat was absolute. An estimated 20,000 Romans were killed, and another 10,000 were captured. Crassus himself was killed during a tense parley that turned violent a day later. Surena hadn't just defeated Rome. He had humiliated it, shattering the myth of its invincibility and capturing its sacred legionary standards. Surena's victory at Carrhae was total. He had saved the empire from a massive invasion and brought back immense spoils and celebrated prisoners. His fame echoed across the east. He wasn't just a powerful nobleman anymore. He was a hero to the Parthian people, the man who had crushed the unstoppable Romans with an army less than a third of their size. But back in the capital, his stunning success wasn't seen as a blessing. It was seen as a threat. King Orodes II, the man Surena had helped put on the throne, watched his general's meteoric rise with a growing sense of dread. The Parthian political system was a delicate balance of power. The king ruled, but the great houses, like the House of Surena, held enormous influence. Any subject who became too powerful, too popular, or too celebrated could easily become a rival. Surena's success had made him a living legend. He was charismatic, impossibly wealthy, from a noble line as old as the empire itself, and now he was a military genius who had won a victory that shook the known world. In the paranoid world of royal politics, a man with that much power and prestige isn't an asset. He's a potential usurper. The very qualities that made Surena a brilliant general, his independence, his vast personal resources, and his charisma now marked him for death. Every cheer for Surena in the streets was a quiet challenge to the king's authority. The historical records are thin on the exact details of what happened next, but the outcome is chillingly clear. Shortly after the triumph that should have secured his place in history forever, General Surena was executed. The reason given by ancient historians like Plutarch, and accepted by most modern scholars, is simple and brutal: jealousy. King Orodes II, fearing Surena's ambition and overwhelming popularity, decided his general was too dangerous to be left alive. There was no final battle, no public trial for treason. There was only the cold, hard logic of power. The hero who had protected Parthia was eliminated by the very monarch he served. His victory was so complete, his glory so bright, that it cast a shadow the king himself couldn't bear. Surena's story is the ultimate tragedy of a hero betrayed by the system he fought for. He was a master of the battlefield, a tactician who could outmaneuver the greatest military power of his time. But the political battlefield of the Parthian court was a far more treacherous place. His military genius had won the war, but it couldn't save him from the peace. He had crushed Rome, but in doing so, he had become too big for his own king. The story of General Surena is a stark reminder that in the Game of Thrones, the greatest threat isn't always the enemy at the gates, but the allies standing right beside you. His family, the House of Surena, would remain a powerful force for centuries, a testament to their deep-rooted influence. But his personal tale is one of history's greatest cautionary lessons about the lethal mix of glory and fear. What do you think? Was Surena's execution inevitable? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to explore more stories of incredible figures from the ancient world, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.